Miami, excellent. Okay. Okay, why don't we, hey Josh, I'm gonna go ahead and start the recording. So give me 1 second. 1, 2, 3. Recording this computer. Okay, we are live and recording this session. If everybody, just make sure that please you're muted. And then at the end, feel free to unmute yourself to ask questions. Super excited to have Josh Martin with me. Josh, I'll let you introduce yourself in a second here. My name is Chris Ralph. I'm the founder of Boulder SEO Marketing. Today we're going to talk about Google Ads and pay-per-click strategies. We're going to cover a lot of information. Josh, I'll let you talk about the agenda in a second here, but this is me. Originally from Switzerland, ended up here about 25 years ago. Absolutely love it. As I mentioned before, just about to leave for a ski vacation. Been doing digital marketing for about 25 years. We had the busiest year ever because a lot of companies got caught off guard because they did not have a digital marketing strategy in place, SEO, pay-per-click, content marketing, etc. So, yeah, it's been a wild ride. Josh, over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the quick intro here. My name is Josh, originally from New Jersey, came out to Colorado in about 2007. I've been in digital marketing for 15 years as both a consultant, business owner, and account manager. So I've seen all angles of the development cycle. I'm a Google certified premier partner, Bing accredited professional, Google grant recipient. I love just about anything outside. So football, camping, hiking, and just generally learning new things. And what we'll talk about today in the next 60 minutes is the most effective strategies when using a platform called Google Ads. It's one of the largest digital marketing platforms out there, so it's a very logical place to start. This will be mostly presented from the frame of somebody who has never had a Google Ads account before. And even if you already have a Google Ads account, there's a lot of beneficial information you'll learn here about how to optimize and tune it up a little bit. We'll look at the changing habits of consumers and clients, the most effective and up-to-date SEM advertising techniques, and the basics of image advertising and how you could use that with a system called remarketing. While we'll get you as close as you can to being an expert, at least you will know where to start today. Just a quick overview of the items I'll cover here. We're going to look at SEO, so search engine optimization, and SEM, what they are and why they're better together. So search engine marketing and search engine optimization. The evolving search results page, or also known as the SERP, live demo of how to build a basic search ads campaign using a Google Ads account. And then some quick tips on how to manage that account once it's running. Take a quick look at display advertising and remarketing, what it is and how it can really complement your digital advertising efforts. And then with time allowing, we'll take a quick look at what's next for digital marketing and a quick question and answer section after that.
And then Josh, maybe worth noting, I mean, we had so much interest in this webinar, about 300 people signed up. I think we may be hosting it's going to be a 4-pay, moderately priced or not too expensive, a master class, a more in-depth class on Google Ads and PPC. But you guys will be, I'll keep you posted if somebody's interested in attending. But yeah, that'll be forthcoming.
Yes, and I'm very excited to host that class. We'll dive into some of the things we won't have time to get into today and the nuts and bolts of remarketing. And to anybody here today, just get the sales pitch out of the way really quickly here for you. But we are offering an exclusive offer to participants of today's webinar, and that's a free video vignette production with all search marketing services. And so that's a 6-second and 15-second video vignette made to use in Google Ads and advertising platforms like Facebook. In addition to that, we always offer a free market analysis. This document's really useful for being a temperature gauge for what your market currently looks like, what your competitors are up to, and it'll even project what kind of results you could expect to receive. So with that out of the way, let's dive into some of the learning pieces. So SEO and SEM, what they are and why they're better together. Briefly to define it, SEO is search engine optimization, and it's primarily influences the organic section of this, the search engine's results page. Whereas SEM is a little bit more of an umbrella term. It is mostly referring to the ads that we see in a search results page, but it could also be images, videos, just about any sort of clickable medium and advertisement that you see on the internet would fall under the banner of SEM. Let's kind of dissect this search result a little bit. Here's the search query. It goes by many names, the keyword, the phrase, term, whatever you want to say. It's what you enter into Google to elicit the search results. Next, we have the shopping ads. Now, these are only for e-commerce. So if you don't have a tangible product that you can sell and exchange, you won't be able to participate in this ad. So service-based industries or business to business, this doesn't apply so much to you. But it's the only way to get your price, picture, product, and promotion here at the top of Google. So it's a very logical step if you are an e-commerce provider. Then we have the text ads. This is where Google makes 90% of its revenue. So it is very easy to what I call spend funny money in this section of Google. And we'll go over some methods to prevent that from happening. And then last but most certainly not least, we have the organic search results. And these are the search results that Google comes up with on their own without any influence of paid advertisements. And so now that we have an understanding of kind of the different sections of the search results page, let's address a common question I get at this juncture, which is, well, why would I pay for PPC ads or pay per click ads if your ads already show up in organic listings? So why would you want two listings on the same page, in other words? Well, your customers expect to find you, and they're looking to find you nearly immediately. It lets you control your messaging and landing page and test those two different variants. It lets you own and control more page real estate. And arguably, that's one of the largest benefits of paid advertising when you already have a good organic presence, is being able to control more of the Google search results page, or what we call real estate. Paid coupled with organic, it just drives more overall traffic. And also paid coupled with organic improves brand health metrics. And I'll have some more data on that in just a moment. And it influences purchase. So let's dive into that purchase data first. So 858% higher conversion rate than traditional outbound methods. A lot of that has to do with the methodology that we can use with the Google tools. 50% higher conversion rate than organic traffic alone. 200% average return on investment from your Google advertisements. 65% of all clicks made by users who intend to make a purchase go through a paid advertisement of some sort. An 80% average lift to your brand awareness that's provided by search ads alone. Here's kind of how that happens with the brand lift. So let's say you only have an organic search listing. Well, in that case, you have a 42% likelihood that someone's going to visit your website. Or you have no organic listing and only a paid listing, goes up slightly, but not much. You have a 53% likelihood that that person's going to visit your website. But when you've coupled a paid and organic listing, it goes up to 95% likelihood that that user will visit your website. They also develop something called brand prominence. When they see that your website and your brand is taking up the paid and organic listings in Google search, they get the impression that your brand is really on the ball and doing their due diligence and is the best possible suggestion for the search that they've put into Google or Bing. This is attributed to something I call the savvy gap. So we have savvy users who are aware of what paid advertising is, and we have non-savvy users that don't know the difference between paid advertising and organic. The savvy users, they tend to get that same impression of brand prominence, but have a more appreciative understanding of how you got there. They tend to save you a buck and click on your organic listing. The non-savvy users have that very same impression of brand prominence. However, they tend to click your ad more often. But at the end of the day, it will drive more traffic to any applicable website.
Hey, Josh.
Mhm.
So I interrupt. Hey, could I ask you to quickly show an Google incognito search for SEO training Denver? Just quickly want to show the power of organic and PPC, or basically I want to point out the importance of off-page optimization, which is something that we're going to talk about in our next webinar. So as you can see there at the top, we get a lot of Google Ads, right? We occasionally run ads for this training. We used to host these half-day SEO workshops in Denver. It's now online. It's free webinars. So check this out. If you scroll down a little bit, so we got the first 2 organic listings to our website. Then a competitor, Course Horse there. But then check it out. Below LinkedIn, that's actually a LinkedIn showcase page that will take people back to our website, and an about.me page that also takes people back to the website where they can sign up for the March 9 SEO training webinar. So imagine if you now also have ads at the top, you completely dominate basically page number 1, right? Really good chance to get people back to your website. So through paid ad, organic SEO, and then off-page SEO, LinkedIn showcase page, about.me page is a super powerful and makes for a very good life once you dominate page number 1 there. Sorry, Josh, back to you.
Oh, no, very, very good example of dominating page real estate. It's all about, think of it as market share almost. The more you can take from your competitors, the better it is for you in that instance. And speaking of too, let's take kind of a look at back. What did Google look like a few years ago? I mean, this was taken close to a decade ago, and we're just looking for some shoes. And we really did call out very brightly that this was an ad with this kind of like tannish salmon color. And then we have an ad icon here. But we really can tell that this is an advertisement. And then down here, we start with the organic listing. So at that point in time, we were primarily organic. Let's flash forward and do that same search today, and we see a very different landscape where majority of the top of the fold here is advertisements, and Skechers doing a really good job in this instance of taking up a good amount of that page real estate. But a lot of people don't realize as well that all of these images off to the right are paid sponsored ads. They are starting to make a few ways for you to get into this system organically, but for the most part, this is still a paid to play situation. So if you need to show up on page 1, these are all advertisements. And then you see 2 more ads here, followed by 2 organic listings. And so you see the ads are creeping in more and more to comprise the search result. Let's put a qualifier in here. Let's say lady shoes near me. Now we see a search result that's 100% comprised of advertisements. We have PLA or product listing advertisements cascading across the top and as well as the right-hand side of the page. But a lot of people don't realize that brick and mortar stores can also pay for preferred placement here in the maps listing. Now, that doesn't mean I can be 1,000 miles away and show up on somebody's search results for maps. It still has to be contextually and geographically relevant to what that person's looking for and where they are. But in that instance, you can pay to take, such as Famous Footwear did here, preferred placement so that you have a larger icon than your competitors and you are higher up in the pack here in the search result. So you see they're getting a little bit more sneaky about showing us when it's an ad, but still trying to drive us home to what we're looking for. That is still the end goal of any given search engine. We've also seen the rise of a new type of search result. This is called position zero. This is kind of like Google trying to give you an answer here in google.com without you ever leaving the website. So it's usually used for common questions, and it could show up here in a short answer box or in these quick questions. So in these drop-down boxes as well. Typically what happens here is if it's a less commercial term, so if it doesn't have any intent like we saw a moment ago where I said near me, I had the intent to go somewhere, you will see a search result more like this, because they don't want advertisers to waste money on a research-based search result. They'd rather have some intent to that search. And speaking of page real estate, I like to use this example from diapers.com, because I think they were doing a really good job at this time of controlling page real estate. You see they have a nice ad here at the top of the fold, 2 extra listings here. They're taking the very first organic listing, and then 2 product listing ads as well. So they've taken, as far as the fold goes, majority of the fold away from their competition in this instance. They're using some really keen tools, and I'm going to show you in a little bit here how to set some of these up yourself, but they're using extensions. So here's a review extension, and you see how that pushes down the competitors further in the page. There's 2 site link extensions there, also doing a good job at pushing people down into the page. But there's some stuff going on behind the scenes as well, a little bit deeper into this ad. So they're testing options. So they're testing different landing pages and different promotions. And they're also showing promotional consistency. So it's very important to tell them what kind of incentives or calls to action you're currently offering, but then repeat that call to action once you've made it to that landing page. So you see they're doing a great job here of having 20% off thousands of items and then repeating that sentiment. So they've gotten the impression, hey, I'm heading to the right place when they click this button. And when they see that repeated to themselves, they get the impression, I have found the right place, and they begin shopping. And then a lot of that was done by winning the page real estate game in the first place. And so quickly, and you'll have another chance to scan this QR towards the end of the deck, but if you would like a copy of today's slides, you can find them there. Quickly, I am going to take you through the setup of a Google Ads account before we go over into a live demo, and I show you how to set up some of those extensions we just took a look at. Reason is, Google has changed how this system sets up. And so even if you are already running a campaign, you might learn some stuff here that you can come back and bring to your Google Ads campaign and improve it. Because what they're trying to do is get rid of some of the common pitfalls early on. So if you don't already have an account, just go ahead and sign in or click Start Now once you're here. From there, it's going to talk to you a little bit about what your goals are. And if your Google Ads account or account rep has not yet talked to you about these goals, definitely start engaging that conversation and take a look at your campaign settings, because you can instruct it for these goals. In this instance, this person's mainly looking for phone calls. This example is going to be a pet business. So they have a small brick and mortar store, as well as they do some grooming and walking services. So let's go ahead and put your business name in here. It's important too to make sure that if you have what's called a Google My Business profile already, ensure that you're writing your name exactly as it was written in that profile. This is going to save you a lot of steps later down the line, but it's also going to make it easier for Google to recognize the connection between that business and this account that you're setting up. Likewise, ensure that the URL you're putting in here is the same URL in your Google My Business if you already have that profile set up. This handy little piece is going to take a look at your website and let you know whether or not it is ready to market. You'll be able to look at a desktop and mobile version. And Google Ads will, at this point in time, sometimes put the brakes on it and give you some instructions how to fix your site before you go ahead and run ads. So it's a very useful piece to look at there. Next, they drive you right into ad copy creation. And here's where I think a lot of people with this current setup system are making some errors. And just want to cover some of the common pitfalls that people do when writing their ad copy here. Oftentimes we're missing what's called a call to action. And as you see here, we don't have kind of our incentive, which could be a discount, could be as simple as call now or join us today. So we'll want to see that in almost every ad copy, not just telling them what you can do with that information, but then how you can use that information. Always make sure you're using title case as well. So write it as if you were writing the title of a book or a play. And then it's a good best practice to try to repeat some of your core keywords in the ad copy itself. So grooming services, pet supply, and food delivery are some core keywords for this particular client. So you see that they do actually have those well written within this example. Next, they're going to talk to you a little bit about keywords. Here, I really don't recommend going too hog wild, and I think they'll actually stop you at about 20 keywords. So maybe like 5 to 6 keywords, and really try to echo the core services or products that you're trying to advertise here. And so in this instance, they've already suggested for us dog walker. And I've used the suggestions down here to go ahead and add a few more related keywords. You can type them in yourself, but honestly, Google does a pretty decent job of scanning your website and understanding the types of keywords that would relate to both your website and the ad we made moments ago. Next, geography. Oftentimes, people either go extremely small, so let's say 1 or 2 zip codes. Early on, that can slow your campaign growth. So I recommend giving it either a healthy radius, or at least, if you do want to just do a local campaign, maybe start with the county or city, not just an individual grouping of zip codes. But if you did want to do that, just go ahead and click here to see the more advanced features for that. And they're going to throw you right into budgeting. And based off of the cost per click for the keywords we've selected, and to some degree, how strong they feel your website is, they will put a budget out here. This one's actually pretty palatable. Sometimes it gets pretty high into your daily spend. I often find that their middle of the road suggestion, that's a good place to start. But do remember where they were saying the ceiling was, and do work your campaign towards that as you see success.
Hey, Josh.
Yes.
So an interrupt, quick question. Does it matter what kind of domain authority your website has? Basically, if it's better optimized from an SEO standpoint, will that potentially lower the cost for PPC?
Very much so. So,
Wow.
and some verticals, it's best to do several rounds of SEO before ever thinking of running an ad, because by having high quality scores, which is the equivalent over here in Google, Google Ads, you get a lower cost per click and more impressions at your current budget. So they reward you for doing those due diligence, because at the end of the day, Google has an easier time reading a well-optimized site and understanding what the content is and who would be interested in that content. And so they do give you a discount here in Google Ads for having a well-optimized site with high domain and page authority. And that discount comes in the form of a reduced cost per click.
Awesome. You just gave me a really good sales argument for all. Thank you.
And then right before, it just gives you one opportunity here to check things out, make sure everything's in order. I do recommend that you do have a good close look at that, because once you click this, it's going to go ahead and launch you into the campaign itself. And you'll be dropped into a screen that looks like this, with the exception of this red bar. They would have already collected your payment information on these last few screens here. Now, once in here, I think a common mistake people make is they say, all right, cool, I've got a Google Ads campaign. And then they walk away from it. They've set their budget. This one would spend, a little over $1,000 within a month. But there's several things here that, even in that setup that was more well-rounded by Google, that are missing, such as those site link extensions we just looked at earlier. And it's really quick to add those. So from this screen that they drop you into, all you do is go over here to ads and extensions, and you can see the ad we made moments ago in that other screen and any associated extensions within the account. When you first make an account, this section will likely be blank for you. So you would just see gray in this space and just a blue button here. Just go ahead and click that to create any given extension. For most businesses, I recommend a site link extension, a call out extension, and a phone call extension at minimum. If you have the capacity and your product allows for it, definitely put price extensions. Those have a big benefit on click-through rate and in-search disqualification. What I mean by that is, when somebody sees a price in Google search that's unpalatable or they just can't afford it, they're never going to click your ad. They're going to save you time and money and move on pretty quickly. So wherever you can, if you can, put a price extension. But for today's example, let's just quickly show you how to make a site link extension, because these are the ones we looked at for diapers.com that really take up a lot of page real estate. You want to really mirror your website's structure. So if you think about how most websites are laid out, they have a home page, an about us page, a contact page, and if they're e-commerce, they will have a lot of cart pages as well. In this case, this client has what we call kind of a business card website. It's just to let them know we're here and to collect leads. So let's start with their goal, which is contact us.
Josh, we had a question. What is a site link extension? Maybe really quickly, I mean, I know you're showing it right now, but
sure,
clarify 100% what it is.
Sure, just one moment. So these would be site link extensions here that we see popping up here below an advertisement. You can have up to 6 of these show at any given time. And this is what diapers.com's using here to push people down in Google search. And they're almost, in terms of character limits, they're almost the same size as an ad. So it's like putting extra ads underneath your ad. So it's a real, in my opinion, a no-brainer for most businesses when building their Google Ads campaign, because it's very effective at pushing people down in Google search. And at a minimum, they're going to ask for 4 of these. And you'll see as you build them, kind of an example of what that would look like off to the right here. And so you have your ad here, and then you will have up to 6 of these display at any given time. More often we see 2 to 4. The higher page authority and domain authority and quality score that you have, the more likely you're going to see these expanded like we just did in that example. So even though it is not required to write these descriptions, we highly recommend that you do. You're always guaranteed to show this headline, such as we see in this example here. Really, they're just a great way to add extra links out there in addition to your ad. And I often think of it as the ad copy is your elevator pitch, and the site links are essentially the follow-up. So if that initial ad copy wasn't enough, we're going to put a smattering of a few more things that may interest or pique your interest. So then we did dog sitting services, because that is a core service for this particular example. And then cat sitting as well. You notice we're using title case as we generate these. This isn't as important as it is in the ad copy to include or bake in your keywords. Because again, it doesn't always show the description text that we're writing. And last but not least, private dog walk as a priority. And so what we've done is mirrored what this client's website would look like. So this would be the home page, and then the following preceding pages. So that's the best practice. It doesn't work for everybody's website structure, but to kind of follow your main navigation with your site link extensions here. And you see in this mobile example, it has pushed it down to the bottom of the page. You can peruse around here to see what the other sizes and structures would look like, and then see what it would look like on Google properties like YouTube or Gmail. Then just click save. You're off and running. You are ready to have site links. You can schedule these as well. So say you just wanted to make one site link to promote something that's happening recently, go ahead and do that. You can use these as a great space to promote events. Another must-have that we'll do briefly here is a call out extension. And these show in Google search below the ad and above the site link extensions. The core benefit of this is you get another 100 characters of ad text. So again, we're just pushing the competition down in Google search. A lot of people, the tendency is to try to string these together to make a sentence, but they will not display in the order you have written them. So keep that in mind. They have to be a 25-character statement that stands alone contextually. So oftentimes what fits in that kind of a condition is key callouts and benefits about your business. So for example, this one is locally owned and operated. They do a really good job of vetting their employees. So let's talk about that. They have a really cool GPS system that helps people know where their dogs are while they're being walked. We already had, well, let's think bonded and insured. Perfect. So now we've really called out what makes them different from their competitors. And again, you can always peruse and kind of get an idea of where is this going to show in relation to my ad copy and my other extensions. Now, just because you've made an extension is not a guarantee they will show all of your extensions. As you optimize your website and your ad content to some degree, you will notice that all of your extensions show more consistently though. And so that's it for making the most common extensions. Again, though, if you do have the capacity to add a price extension and a location extension for that matter, I highly recommend doing so, because those do take up a lot of real estate and improve the effectiveness of every ad dollar that you spend here with Google Ads. And then briefly, I did want to show you a couple things that once this campaign is launched that oftentimes are missed. So earlier, we gave Google 6 keywords. They're not going to just sit around on 6 keywords, though. They're actually going to develop more lists of keywords here. So for example, dog walker, since it is a broad match keyword, could show up for dog walker near me, dog walker Austin, Texas, dog walker New York, New York. So you see how it can start to get a little bit irrelevant over time, what Google is using as a broad match keyword. Really, these are kind of like the seed keyword that gets the thought going. But to see all of the words that are actually showing up, you'll have to navigate to your search terms report. And that's just by going to keywords and then down here, 3 tabs to search terms. In here, once the campaign's running, you'll see a list of all the search terms that have shown a search result. It's important to just look through those, and you can check this box as you find some that aren't very relevant to you, and just say, I want to make that a negative keyword. Unfortunately, this campaign has not yet ran, so I can't actively show you what that would look like, but I can show you here kind of in the search term side. So you would just select this, say edit, you can remove, or you can even add to a negative keyword list if you are maintaining one of those. That's going to really keep it tightly themed, and it's also going to help Google's machine learning tools to better understand your priorities and your goals. This is what's called a search query review. So just once again, to navigate to that, it's keywords and then search terms. And then you're going to be able to see all of the keywords that Google's kind of unilaterally going out there and finding for you, and call out some of the less than productive ones that you see in there. Some good best practices there is you do want to see a 0.4% or higher click-through rate, or a 1% or higher interaction rate on those keywords. Awesome. So briefly, just going to switch back over to the deck. At this point in time, that campaign that we've put together, we were able to do that pretty quickly. I mean, in under 20 minutes, and it will run. It's off and running with its site link extensions. Do come back and check that search query report. And then think about building a display advertising or remarketing campaign. Well, these are extremely impactful campaigns, but they're also very affordable. So I said earlier that Google makes 90% of its revenue from search advertising. Well, that's because everything Google does is it's a giant auction. And so the more people that show up to any auction, the higher the bids and prices will be. And the most crowded auction at Google is Google search. And so the more you diversify your campaigns, even if it isn't with the types of campaigns we're going to look at here, the more affordable your campaigns will become for you, and the more effective they'll become for you without any additional budget. Really, the big benefit there too is it's about a 1 penny to 5 pennies cost per click, whereas in search, the average cost per click is about $5. So you can do a lot more with less. But you do need that search campaign that we just set up to really feed remarketing with the kind of information and insights it needs to be successful. So they really do tie into one another. But most of our time really isn't in search. That's the other problem. So if you're only doing a search campaign, you're only getting 21% of the internet eyeballs that are available. Whereas 79% of our time is out there on the web. We're looking at blogs, forums, hanging out on social media sites, looking at YouTube, checking our Gmail. Most of our time is not spent in search. Search is just to get us where we're going. It's the steering wheel, whereas the car is kind of out here. That's where remarketing really comes into play, because these are the types of ads that understand a lot about contextually where you are, who you are, and what you're interested in. That's because it uses the largest display advertising network ever created. It's called the Google Display Network, and this is over 800 million websites. It reaches 94% of the internet. And so really, it's just not touching things like Twitter or proprietary things like Facebook and Instagram that have closed marketing systems of their own. The kind of ads that oftentimes people say, how did they know? You know, they just kind of appear, and it's like, that is exactly what I am looking for. And the reason they're able to just appear is because of this network of sites that have rented small pieces of their site as ad space. This helps to bridge a ever fracturing consumer journey. It's far from linear, and post-COVID, it's definitely changed the consumer cycle even more. It's very rare that we see a linear cycle where someone sees an ad, goes to the store, purchases the item, and returns. That usually doesn't happen. And there's several research steps and iterations, especially on higher price point products. So, but let's just take a quick look at this example search here. Let's say this person's looking for a super specific cup of coffee. It's a nice Kana blend. They had it with a friend, and they're just trying to research, hey, what was that again? So they got the brand name from a friend, did a Google search. And at that point in time, you can present them with the search ad. Let them see that you're there. They don't have to click on that ad for you to now make them a part of your remarketing list. So a list of people who we're showing ads to. Let's say they make their way over to Gmail, and they're going to check their email because they had an email from a friend who had a similar coffee. It's not exactly what they were looking for, but it did pique their interest. Well, at that point in time, you can also show them an ad for your coffee right there in their Gmail inbox. As they move off to, let's say, Google Maps to find a local store that carries it, you can also show them a preferred placement ad there, letting them know where you are, and that if you do carry that coffee, you're here for them. Oftentimes, they come back for a second search result. This is that high intent search. So here's your first search where they're really just starting the research phase. This is the high intent search. This is where every marketer is going after, is this particular search result. And that's why it is such an expensive search result for people to use, or to see a good benefit from, I should say. This point in time, they leave the high intent search result, and they're either going to make a purchase or develop social fluency. So in other words, develop an understanding of this company. Are they socially responsible? What kind of things are they doing to be fiscally and socially responsible members of the community? This type of user then oftentimes makes their way to a purchase. Some users skip this step. They go right from that high intent search to the purchase. But keep that in mind, because you could use YouTube, even Facebook or Instagram at this point in time to develop that understanding and familiarity of your brand and your company. And so you can see this particular person's search patterns in history were just all over the place. No longer is it linear. And that's where remarketing really comes in to capture everyone. Because it covers that 94% of the internet, and you really are able to make the most out of a minimal advertising budget because of that low cost per click. I think the biggest changing space right now is video. Very similar to what we discussed with Google remarketing, where it's extremely cheap. Video usually is going for a penny. I've seen it go as for a fraction of a penny sometimes in cost per click. And it can have reach, repetition, and engagement that rivals television on some of its best days. Not necessarily Super Bowl, but pretty close. And it's came a long way. I mean, YouTube was this clunky little thing in 2007. You might have used it to share some funny cat videos or show it around the dorm room or the office or whatnot, but it only lived on our desktop. Now, flash forward to today, it's everywhere. It's on our mobile devices, it's on our tablets, our PCs, and our TVs. It's also delivering television content to millions of homes at this point in time. And this cross-device viewership is allowing us to do things with video we've never done before. I'm doing a really interesting campaign now that tells a sequential story. And so the first in a series is shown to one particular user, and then as they return to YouTube, they will see the second piece of that story. It's a great way to start a conversation, because oftentimes people get excited and tell their friends what they're looking at, like, oh, look at this, it's a sequential story. And it's a great way to stay top of mind in a way that's engaging and fun for people. Not to mention, once you've connected your Google Ads account to your YouTube account, you're going to unlock signals from Google Maps and YouTube that are going to benefit all of your other remarketing and search campaigns, some of which are consumer patterns. So, are they a research shopper or are they a linear shopper? Life events. So did they recently move? Did they start a new job? Are they getting married? What kind of life events are they going through right now? And what services are associated with that? And then just a lot of general enhancements to what you can put into your audiences. So the trifecta right now in Google Ads is that Google search ad that we built together earlier, a remarketing campaign with video, and connect that to your Google My Business account. And then you're really firing on all cylinders. You have all the data Google could to really help drive home your conversions. And briefly, you can download the deck here on this QR code. And we will also be providing a digital e-booklet. This will help answer some of the more common questions that people run into when first starting a Google Ads account, such as this one. It'll also point you into some great training resources through Google that'll help you to build out some of these campaigns. I did mention, if we have time, it looks like we have just a minute or two, I'll go over what's coming next in Google. I think the biggest change in the space is the Buy Now button. So for those of you who are an e-commerce client, this is now already available to you. You just need to go through your Google Merchant Center and apply for the Buy on Google button. And this really changes the game. It puts Google a little bit more on a level playing field with Amazon, because they already have one of the largest inventories in the world with Google Shopping. And connecting now the ability to just buy right there in Google really does change it from not just a advertising platform, but a sales platform. Buy Now button users get 30% more space. So you can see how they really do get a little bit more of that page real estate. So highly recommended you jump onto this while it's fresh. You also get this really keen storefront where you can control the imagery here and the incentive and logo here. This is pretty new for Google. They're very hesitant to let people put images on google.com. But I've seen some really great case uses here to not just feature products, but put incentives and calls to action in this image itself. Then Video Builder Beta. This is probably one of the bigger innovations. This can only be done through a Google Premier partner at this point in time, because it is in beta. But as soon as it's out of beta, it will be open to the general advertising populace to make these short, snappy, quick videos. What's great about them is they use machine learning and information that Google has collected over many years of running ads on YouTube. And they've incorporated the elements of those ads that worked best, that drew the eye and held retention the longest. Even better yet, you don't need a high dollar production to get that high impact video. You can use your images that are already existing on your website, or even stock imagery to develop some of these short, snappy video vignettes. And YouTube's offering a really great program right now through the Video Builder that'll get your team spun up on the basics of YouTube, how to use Creative Studio, media planning, and just some of the top line topics you would really need to make these types of ads successful. But it's coming on the horizon. It's something to be aware of because this really will change the game in terms of the types of ads that you can create through Google Ads. Beyond that, I have shared my agenda, and I would love to open it up to some questions and answers. moment here. I'm pulling up the chat. All right. Oh, yes. Quickly, we're going to go to the QR code. We'll leave that up. There you are. Had a request here to put the QR up a little bit longer so you can snap a pic of it. And if you're using an Apple phone, just heads up, all you have to do nowadays is just wave the camera in front of it and it will know what's going on. Yes. So in Google Ads, competitors are using other company names in their search words. Can this be addressed by Google Ads? Yes, it most certainly can. So if your brand name is in someone else's advertisement, you can have that removed. You can even just call 866 to Google and let them know what you see going on there and who's doing it. But they are allowed to bid on your brand name. So meaning they can put your brand name in as a keyword. What they're not allowed to do is ever put somebody else's brand name into ad copy. That's referred to as conquesting. And so that type of campaign is where you are trying to actively take search market share and listings from your competition. And yes, the recording will be sent out after today, as well as the digital e-booklet.
Cool. And so I didn't notice that I was muted. Josh, we had an interesting comment. Somebody said, this has gotten so complex. Should a small business in the UK even try to do Google, ads themselves? What are your thoughts? Like, what's going on? When should somebody team up with somebody, like us who offers this service?
It has gotten very complicated. And I think that window of, where you can do it yourself and then where you need to come in with a professional has shrunk a lot. I think if you're just looking to do what we did here today and set up a quick search campaign, that's good for most small businesses, especially if you're brick and mortar. It does drive a decent amount of foot traffic. But then once you start to get into some of those other advertising types, such as remarketing, the complexities compound upon themselves very, very quickly. And in the UK, as you likely are aware, you have the GDPR, which does limit some of the remarketing features you can use. And in California as well, we just had the California Consumer Protection Act, the CCPA, come online. And so that's got some very, very similar limitations to it. It doesn't change too much structurally for Google. It will change a lot about any Facebook campaigns that you're running, especially in California. So that's another thing to contend with when deciding whether to run an ad on a Google Ads platform. But in the UK, it's a safe bet for sure to do the search advertisements that we looked at.
Okay, cool. And then I don't know if you already addressed the question from Kaisha in the diapers example. How did you know they were conducting A/B testing behind the scenes? Did you already address that?
I did not yet see that. No, and great question. I clicked the ad multiple times. That's how we found that out. And actually, unfortunately, diapers.com is no longer in the ecosystem. They've been kind of eaten up by Amazon. So it's hard to go find that example. But you can have lots of really great systems out there, such as Unbounce or Google Optimize, that facilitate that for you. And what it'll do is it'll change the incentive or the landing page for every other user that clicks your ad. That doesn't just give you information into what incentives work, it also lets you know what site structure looks better, and works better for you.
Okay. Then a quick question from Lowell. I created a Google My Business over a week ago and the message still under review. Could there be a problem? So Google is behind with many tasks pertaining to Google My Business since the pandemic started. I think they reallocated some resources. Give it a little bit more time. I would probably have to give it at least 2-3 more weeks and then start to investigate. But that's what we're hearing out there. Then let me see. Let me see, Ryan, in Google Ads, competitors are using other company names. Did you already address that, Josh?
I did, yes.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
Okay. Um, okay. What's your thoughts on having an ad for your domain? Obviously, competing against your organic listing, but combating others bidding on your domain.
Oh, yes, yes. I call that the protect my backyard strategy. I'm a big fan of it. I do see large engagements, both organically and paid, when you have a ad next to your organic listing. Um, you are taking up more page real estate by putting an ad next to your organic listing, but it's not necessary. You know, some people choose not to do that and just show ads elsewhere, and that's fine as well. But that's the main reason I do that, is to protect your own backyard. So if someone does bid on your name, you're there with a counter bid. You will always win that bid, nearly always win that bid, because you're going to have the highest quality score for your brand name compared to anybody else.
Cool. Then a question from Yas or Yas. Can you speak to how new privacy laws coming to the US and existing privacy laws in the EU are affecting SEO and digital ads? You already mentioned it. Anything else to add, Josh?
You know, I'd say it's been a little while since the GDPR happened. And I'd say in terms of performance, minimal. It's just some tools were taken away from us in terms of the types of interests and behavior tracking. So for example, in the States, we can kind of tell a little bit more about someone's general interests. So I don't know, they're a golf enthusiast, let's say. They are a certain age range and they live here. That kind of information is stripped out. But beyond that, we can still go back to the methods that really built Google in the first place, which are more traditional keyword-based advertisements rather than audience and list-based advertisements. So I still think it's still definitely in play. It remains to be seen in California with some of the newer laws there. That was one of the first sweeping changes in the States. And so they've had us getting ready for this for about 6 months. Some campaigns have seen a negative impact, but for the most part, majority of what I've seen is much to the same of what we saw with GDPR. It's a reversion in some of the tools Google can use, but those tools are even very effective as well.
Okay, cool. From an organic SEO standpoint, nothing much is going to affect that. Noteworthy, I'm currently beta testing a new search engine called Neeva, Neeva.com. An ex-Googler started that search engine. It's going to be a subscription model search engine that does not show ads, very protective of your data. So that's probably what we're going to see, right? We're all freaking out about these, these big tech companies selling our data. Basically, we have become the product. So that's how I see, SEO being affected. I hope that makes sense. Then let's see, how will iOS 14 change Google Ads, if at all, from Angelica?
So very good question. Really, it's going to be Facebook that's going to have the real, coming home moment. And I don't see anything on the horizon for Google Ads that is going to be affected by the new iOS update. Right now, Google does not take any of the personally identifiable information that Facebook does from the iOS. And what's going to happen shortly here, you'll be able to choose in every app what all the information you do or do not want to share, irrespective of what the app owner wants. And so you can turn off that functionality. This will drastically change what you can do for remarketing in Facebook. And they're going to have a very long list of things that I think are going to shock people when they turn off those features. I don't see anything coming down the pike for Google or Bing, for that matter, with the new iOS update, because they don't use the same kind of methodology that Facebook was.
Cool. Thanks so much. Then question from Kaisha, can you talk more about the A/B testing? How do you set one up? Maybe just very big picture. We're running out of time and we still have a ton of questions here.
Sure. At its most basic, you could just set an A/B test up with 2 ads. So ad 1 has a slight variation in how it's written to ad 2. It doesn't always have to be a landing page. And a little bit more complex than that, you could sign up for something like Unbounce, which is a great service that you connect to your site. It lets you kind of drag and drop a quick page. And that's a great way to test. That Unbounce account can also be connected to your Google Ads account. So that'll allow you then to switch between each user's user landing page experience. So you can get some good data with that. Unbounce will collect all of that information for you. If you're just doing an A/B test with 2 ads, you'll be able to see those results in your Google Ads account.
Cool. And on that note, Josh, we just took on this new client where they wanted to invest, I think, like 8,000 into PPC, but you actually recommended, hey, why don't we start with 4? Because it will take time, right? For the AI to learn, machine learning to learn the ads. Can you briefly just talk about that? Why did we not take that money, but rather suggest a lower budget for the first 3 months?
Yes. I'm a big proponent of start small, develop a proof of concept, and then decide how much gas to pour on the fire you've made. You talk to Google and their representatives. If you do call that number I mentioned earlier, the 8662 Google, they're more on the side of let's spend and figure out how it went afterwards. Whereas we try to develop a proof of concept at a reduced budget. Reason is, when we looked at that disparate consumer journey, it takes a long time for Google to understand how your ads, your product, and your site really belongs and fits in those 800 million websites. And they use a ton of tests and machine learning tools on their own, on A/B testing, where they're showing these ads. That process can take 30 to 90 days before it's really understood and what they call out of the learning period. So it's no longer as simple as, you turn it on and it's like a light switch. It actually does ramp up and learn and slowly progress. And so in my opinion, you should always hold back your spend during that period. Really get a good solid conversion rate and ratio going so that you're returning on your minimal ad spend, and then scale it up from there.
Cool. Good. And then, so if you joined late, or if so we recorded this webinar, everybody will receive the link to the webinar. I'll try to put that up before I leave for my ski vacation later today. We just have a few minutes left. Let me see. How often does a business need to run ads to increase their presence on the web? Meaning, if you get to position number 2, do you have to keep running ads to keep your position?
And if you're referring to organic position, no, paid ads do not influence your organic positioning. But if it's the paid position, yes, you have to keep running to keep that number 2 position in the Google Ads space at the top of Google. But there is no way you can pay to influence the organic listings.
Okay, yeah. And then here's an interesting question from Ryan. How do you get preferred placement in maps? We were showing up in the top 3 to 5. That's the local map pack. I think Google now shows 3 listings at the moment consistently. Now suddenly when I search myself, I'm 10th or worst, and forms that are 15 kilometers away, 10 miles in the first 3 positions. So, man, you're gonna have to organically optimize the Google My Business listing. That's something we're gonna discuss in our next webinar, March 9th. I'll include the link to that webinar in the follow-up email. From a paid standpoint, Josh, Google, you can now get paid placements in Google Map Pack, right?
Yes, you can. But with the preface of it should already be optimized. So that's an important first step, because that does influence where they're going to place you organically or paid. You'll need to connect that to your linked accounts, and that's in your settings in the upper right-hand corner. And a big miss people often don't realize is you need to add the placement maps.google.com. That's maps.google.com. You need to add that as a placement in your ad campaigns. Without getting in the weeds too much, that is going to enable your search ads to then begin to show and put preference into the paid Maps advertising pack. So connect the account and make sure you've had that placement added, and then you will begin to serve ads in Google Maps.
Cool. Hey, Josh, we're at the top of the hour. Are you okay going over 5 minutes and
Sure.
Okay.
Happy
We still
to.
have a lot of people online. And again, we're recording this session. Everybody will get the link to the recording. I'm going to bundle 2 questions here from JD and Julie. Do you recommend Google AdWords certification? And do you have a monthly budget suggestion for a small business for Google Ads?
Highly recommend the certifications. And in fact, in the digital e-booklet, there's a few pages that talk about where you can find them and some of the more effective ones. There's now up to 12 certifications for Google Ads, and I think there's actually 2 now for Google Analytics. YouTube has its own suite of certifications, so it can be a little overwhelming. Where do I start in terms of getting certified? But at a minimum, for a small business, getting search certified, display certified, and if you are an e-commerce company, getting Google Shopping certified. Those 3 will really help you. To become Premier Partner, you need to hold certifications in all of their disciplines. So it's quite a task in and of itself just to begin those certifications. But I'd say if you just do those 3, you're in a really good position to start learning and using Google Ads on your own.
Cool. 2 more questions. Let's power through them. First one, what will the impact of keyword stuffing be? That's more an SEO question. I'm going to answer that. Also, the impact of not using negative keyword. Actually, it's probably also impacting you, the impact of keyword stuffing. From an organic SEO standpoint, don't do it. Just Google Google Webmaster Guidelines. You'll see exactly what the search giant is recommending to do and not to do. So don't do keyword stuffing from an organic SEO standpoint. Josh, over to you.
Yeah, same thing. It will give you a higher cost per click and a lower quality score, so you get less impressions at a higher cost once they've identified that there's stuffing there. Negative keywords will help to mitigate that to some degree, but if you do have a page that has just non-contextual keywords, so just long lists of keywords, negative keywords aren't going to do too much. It's going to keep circling back and seeing kind of the keywords there that have been put in there uncontextually. So keep that in mind. Just try to stay away from it and keep your content non-stuffed.
Cool. All right, last question from JD. Do you offer private consultation? This information was really great. Thank you so much. Josh, great job. But every business is different, and so make sure we are on the right path. I would like an opportunity for a consultation purchased. So we're hosting the next session. I think in 3 months is going to be a master class. I think, Josh, we're going to probably have to limit it to 30 people or so. I guess, Josh, do you offer private consultation?
Certainly. You can find a little bit more details about that. Let me get to the correct slide here on my site, or just feel free to reach out to my email. It's josh@denvermarketing.solutions. But we definitely offer private consulting, even at a smaller capacity, even if it's just to get you onto the right foot. So no long-term commitments or anything to that degree.
Yeah, and just clarify things. So basically, you're spun off. Like my shop, we focus just on organic SEO, content marketing, social media for SEO, and we are strategic partners now. It just makes more sense. So we're different shops, but we work obviously very closely together. So feel free, if you want to consult with Josh, shoot him an email at josh@denvermarketing.solutions. Yeah, I'll be sending out the link to the recording, the booklet. What else? Yeah, Josh, anything else? Oh, sorry. How do you get review extensions? Last question, and then we'll conclude it.
Oh, very good. Really follow those same steps to get the paid ads. So make sure you have maps.google.com as a placement in your campaigns, and connect your Google My Business account to your Google Ads account. And from there, any ads within your reviews will have the ability to show, and you will see that functionality come into your extensions page. You'll now see the ability to add review extensions. If you're an e-commerce provider and you're looking to have product level reviews, those actually need to be set up in a different system, Google Merchant Center. That's a little bit different ball of wax, but is highly beneficial if you are an e-commerce provider.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, Josh, I really appreciate you taking the time to host this session. It was very well received. We had a great crowd here from all over the world. Yeah, we'll keep you posted about that masterclass. And Josh, any last words, words of encouragement, anything else?
Oh, just stay happy and stay safe out there. Enjoy Google Ads. It's nothing to be intimidated about.
Cool, cool. All right. Hey, Josh, again, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you making the time to listen to us, and we'll be in touch. I'm going to stop the recording. I'll stay online for a couple more minutes in case there is anything else. I'm going to stop the recording right now. Thanks, everybody. Wonderful. Cool, cool. I'm going to turn on my camera, Josh, if you want to do the same.
Okay.
All right, cool. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much for the positive feedback from India. Cool. Oh, I miss traveling. I do miss traveling.
We've definitely gotten the bug here. We're planning trips like crazy. It's just landing on which one we're going to take.
Also, thanks for me last year. Yeah, man. Oh, cool. That went really well, Josh. Awesome. What do you think in terms of how many people can we have in the masterclass? Thanks, Paula.
Because we would want to be more hands-on,
Yeah.
what you're saying with 30 does seem logical.
Okay.
About your average, we have done half days with I think as much as 50, but that was in person. That's a little different.
I know. Why don't we, yeah, if you want to shoot me over the content for the landing page.
Awesome.
And then I'll embed the recording of this session in a current landing page.